Welcome to Women Who Give a Puck. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Tara.
And we are here to highlight the experiences of women in hockey, both players and coaches, as well as to provide tangible ways to create more positive changes within that space. And we're super excited for our two guests, Vanessa Fuchs and Lizzy Ristano from WeCOACH, because they are living out the positive changes within the space of sports, the positive changes for females in coaching. And so we're very, very excited to have both of you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Yes. And because it's a hockey podcast, we always like to start out with your hockey story. So I know neither of you played, but hockey still got to you a little bit. So what have you experienced within the world of hockey?
Well, I grew up in Southern California where hockey doesn't really exist. Um, grew up playing mostly field sports and in the pool swimming, but in the late 80s, a guy named Wayne Gretzky got traded to the Kings. And quickly, our streets were filled with just roller hockey. And that really turned into like what we did all day, every day. Roller hockey on the street. We had our parents building us nets out of PVC and just playing it everywhere. So, grew up with that. And then, yeah, just kind of always loved the sport from that experience.
And like Lizzy, I grew up in an area that ice hockey wasn't a predominant sport, South Florida. But my brother played ice hockey, and my sister and I loved to go to the ice rink and skate around. And now that they're back-to-back champs, NHL champs, my brother did attend the very first game when our team down there in South Florida, what do they call it? The tradition with the rats. When they first launched all those many years ago, and now here they are winning NHL championships. So it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a sore subject for us Minnesotans because Florida teams are winning the cup and we aren't, but we'll let that pass.
Yeah.
It's still great that even though you're further away from the ice and the cold, that you both still had some fun with the sport. So we'll take that as a win and we'll pretend that Florida isn't winning all the championships over Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly.
And now both of you have found yourselves in helping females become more comfortable with coaching or getting more females into coaching. And so Vanessa, you're the CEO at WeCOACH, and Lizzy, you work with on the member engagement team. And so for those folks out there who haven't heard of WeCOACH and don't know what you do, can you help explain, where you're having your impact and what kind of programs you have and what your goals and your mission is?
Yeah, well, our team and I, we have the honor of working daily to recruit, advance, and retain more women in the critical profession of coaching. And so we do that through year-round professional growth and leadership development programs for women coaches across all sports and all levels of sport. We have 50 different sports represented in our community. Ice hockey is certainly a sport that's well represented in our WeCOACH community, and then every level of sport from youth club, middle and high school, on up through collegiate, professional, national team coaches. And we're really honored to be able to do this work daily. Lizzy is one of our academy grads from our Women Coaches Academy, and so I wanted her to just briefly be able to share a little bit about our academy.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an event that we hold every year, and it's a in-person event, and it's called the Women's Coaches Academy in conjunction with the NCAA. And what we do there is just really it's a 3-day deep dive into who you are as a coach. We get really gritty into like the nuts and bolts of what's your mission, what's your vision, what's your values. Let's talk about your communication styles. Let's talk about relating with Gen Z today. We cover DEI. We cover pretty much all the topics off the field that a coach needs to better prepare them to be more equipped in this profession. So it's something I attended when I was a coach, just by chance. And I walked away from this experience really feeling like I had taken a huge step forward in my coaching profession because it was training beyond just the X's and O's of sport. It had nothing to do with what we were doing on the field, but everything to do with all those issues that come to us off the field. So it's a really, really high level event. I would put it up next to any professional development event in the country. I think we do it at an A+ level. So it's something really, really powerful that we put forward with that Women's Coaches Academy.
And I'll just add one more piece. We have over 2,400 graduates that have come through the academy on the collegiate side, and we run data with the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport, and it's telling us that academy is helping to keep women in coaching at a higher rate than the national average. And 5 years ago, we started a youth and high school women coaches academy, similar concept as our academy for collegiate coaches, and we're honored now to be able to serve youth and high school coaches through that academy as well.
That's awesome because having a space of like-minded individuals or individuals who look like you is so, so important to have that sport. So I I so interested in hearing kind of that youth and high school because that would be kind of where Tara and I would fall into with, being youth coaches. We're not planning a career out of coaching, but we really want to have an impact and encourage more women to coach at, a level of volunteering. And so that would be something that we could join. And what does that look like? Is it a summit, an online course or group?
Our youth and high school women's coaches academy takes place virtually. It's much easier for us to gather online because with the whole, covering all sports, all levels, all different times of the season, we find it just easiest to get everyone together virtually at one point in time. So we pretty much just try and mimic the same thing we do with our collegiate women's coaches academy. Again, that deep dive into who you are as a coach. Let's cover all those great topics, but we do it online in a full day format. So we just bring in a variety of speakers throughout the day to touch on those topics, and our coaches are sitting in the Zoom room, in and out of the whole day. But we just bring in speakers, high level speakers, all of our connections, and we get them all the information and professional growth and leadership development opportunities that they need to be
And
better
that's
coaches.
coming up. We've got our Youth and High School Women Coaches Academy on August 16th. It's a Saturday, and would love for any youth, club, middle and high school coaches who might be tuning into the podcast to please join us. You can register online.
That sounds awesome. And we'll have all the information for that and everything else about this show in our show notes as well. Where did WeCOACH come from? What was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, we actually started in 2003. We partnered with the NCAA to launch first offering the Women Coaches Academies. And so over 22 years ago now, and we're coming up on in November, we'll host our 55th class of the Women Coaches Academy. We started in 2003 with class number 1. And thanks to the NCAA for their support, we've been able to continue the tradition of hosting one or more academy classes annually. In 2011, we became a nonprofit, the Alliance of Women Coaches, and started to broaden the professional growth and leadership development programs that we offer. And then in 2018, we rebranded to WeCOACH. And since that time, over the last couple of years, we've really tried to expand our programming to meet coaches where they are. And that includes programming that's specific for coaches who are just breaking into the profession, like our We Aspire programming for women that want to get into coaching. So we're giving them the tools to set them on the path for a career in coaching. We have a We Elevate program for women that want to elevate their career, and maybe they're an assistant or associate head coach and want to become a head coach. So we have We Elevate. And then we also have 12 total different programs that we're running throughout the year for our women coaches, some that focus on certain segments of our community. We have a lot of moms who coach, and we know there's some challenges there for mothers trying to find a balance or harmony with their personal lives and being really great moms at home, but also having a thriving career as a coach. We also have programming, for example, to support our women coaches of color in our community, and that's a priority for us. We feel like as you look at the data, there's less than 50% women coaches at every level of sport. And when you look at the number of women of color, the numbers plummet even further. And so we're really trying to grow and recruit the number of women of color in the profession across all sports. And so we've got some dedicated programming through our We Amplify program to support women coaches of color. Those are just a few. Lizzy, did I miss anything?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And what barriers have you found that are specific to women in coaching?
Yeah, the data tells us that we're losing women at an exponential rate, primarily for a lack of support. A lot of them just don't feel they've got the support they need, and they're either on their campus or their school. But also, pay inequities are still impacting women being able to stay in the profession. But there's other challenges. We know the data is telling us we're losing women in years 7 to 10 of their career, and that places them late 20s, early 30s. And a lot of that has to do with, if you think about it, women who late 20s, early 30s, they're one, still figuring out what they want to do with their careers, right? But we also know they may be starting relationships, they might be getting married, they may be starting families. And it goes back to the challenge that I mentioned earlier of these moms in coaching who, without the right support from both their employers, but also at home, they may struggle to continue to stay in the profession. Lizzy is a mom herself, 2 little ones, CJ and Jane. So I'd love for her to touch on the issues and the barriers, the challenges that moms in coaching face.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when you become a mom and you're coaching, I mean, it essentially is 2 full-time jobs, and that's what I experienced. I was coaching at the Division 1 level, sport of softball, and once the kids came along, it got increasingly difficult because on top of that, I married a coach. So my husband coaches baseball, I coach softball. We were both doing it for as long as we could, and you just have to have support. I do think that you can coach and be a mom at a high level, and it works, but you do need. I always say it takes a village. You have to be able to lean on that village to get through that experience. And that's something I did quite a bit. And we were able to keep doing it for as long as we could until life and coaching changes took us elsewhere. And that's what we did. So, and that's when WeCOACH opportunity for me fell in my lap. But I just think that, the time, the commitment, managing the travel, managing the time away, dealing with the stress of missing your own kids' practices and games, and not being that parent that can sign up to coach your own kid because you're coaching your own team. These are all real things that just are so stressful for um, a mom to carry as a coach, and you begin to question yourself: Is this all worth it? I always say coaching is probably one of the most selfless professions in that you're giving your whole life back to those that you're giving to. But in a sense, it's also selfish because you're taking, you're living it out for your joy and your to kind of fill your what fills your cup and at the expense of your family, because I just know coaching at the collegiate level, I mean, I would see my players sometimes more than I saw my kids. So it's a challenge, but it's worth it. And I think if you have that level of support, so that's what we help provide too at WeCoach. As Vanessa referenced, we have a We Connect group for moms in coaching, and this is just we gather once a month. There's no agenda. There's no speakers that come in. It's just a bunch of moms who coach getting in a room and talking about their challenges. And we've had really fun and entertaining topics about coach people leaving on each other, about maybe potty training or feeding issues or what to do with my kid at practice. We have a swim coach who, she was like, I don't want to show this publicly, but my kid was hanging out inside the water polo net and it looked like I had her caged up. Um, but you just do what you got to do, right? And then we get real deep. We've talked about some real deep kind of mom issues that bring out a lot of tears. Stuff like mom guilt and dealing with that, and coming up with a family, bringing up a family, fertility issues, that all comes up. So it's just a great place to have support and knowing that, like, I have people here that are just like me that are doing this with me, and we can do it together.
So on a grassroots level, in a community-based sports, so something like Sarah and I are participating in, or like community softball or baseball, or what does support look like? What would you tell a female coach? How can they better support their other females?
Yeah, I'll speak to it because I'm also that mom that gets roped into being the mom coach. So that's happened to me a couple times now where I've signed my kids up for sports, and of course it's like 2 or 3 weeks out before the season, and we get the email saying we have nobody to coach this team. If somebody doesn't sign up, then we're gonna have to fold the team, right? So with soccer, I was like, oh, I don't know soccer, but I know how to coach, right? So I gave it a week and nobody had responded. So then I said, all right, I'll do it. Right. And then from that point, it was just, I mean, the real thing I learned from that is coaching is coaching. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It's all about connecting with, human beings and communicating and creating, a shared value system, giving them ways to look forward and grow. And I think that's something I just kind of took my college coaching skills and honed that down to like 8-year-olds. Just consistent communication, simple things like that, like sending out the weekly email and constantly, communicating with parents. This is all stuff that we kind of cover in our programming with WeCOACH: communication styles, connecting with Gen Z, managing yourself, knowing your own values. That really kind of helps the mom coach that has never done it before and gets, signed up for this team, and gives them tools to even just stimulate their brain and get it going and thinking, okay, yeah, I could do this with my team, or maybe I can implement this idea. I think it's all kind of relevant, depending how you take the information and how you use it.
I'll just add that there's what and Lizzy touched on this, but what's so unique about our community is we're empowering women, and they're able to immerse themselves in a community of other women who are in their same shoes. And to be honest, you asked earlier about the challenges and the barriers that women coaches face. We still find today, despite this incredible movement for women in sport, we're still finding today that there are some women on their campuses, they're the only female head coach, or they're the only coach, period, on their campus. And so they're able to then connect with other women through WeCOACH, and it's something really special and empowering for them. But when you ask about support, we also try to encourage coaches that they've got to have a really strong relationship with their administration, and how do they forge those relationships to make sure that they're getting the support that they need from their athletic leadership. And so we spend a lot of time in different WeCOACH sessions talking about what are the best practices for coaches as they build relationships with and engage, interact, and lean on their administration as well as other coaches in their network to find that support. So that's a key piece for the work that we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because I think so many female coaches feel alone and maybe not supported by administration, and their kind of go-to maybe to just stay off on the side and stay in their own space. But then that continues to make them feel even more alone. So having that encouragement and those tools with, here are kind of some of the best ways that you can interact with those leadership teams, I think is incredibly, incredibly valuable.
Yeah, as we look at the demographics across all of sports, every level of sport, we know the data tells us there's men that are a much higher percentage of men who are athletic directors at the high school, the college level. And so we also know the data tells us that we as human beings, we tend to hire people who look like us, that we relate to best. And so that has led to maybe the male leadership hiring more men to coach women's sports. But some of what we do too is to try to encourage education about how administration can best support women in coaching. And that includes our moms and allowing moms to flex their time throughout the day. If they've got like Lizzy had to run her daughter to the orthodontist today, allow moms to flex their time, because usually, not in every case, but most family situations, the mom is the primary caregiver in the household. And so allowing flexibility to flex your schedules, but also allowing flexibility, provided there's proper support and supervision, but allowing those kids to come and be at practices, be on the sidelines at games, allow them to travel when mom is traveling for an away game or to go off and recruit. Allowing the children to be integrated into the athletic experience is so important for athletic leaders to understand that those are some of the ways that they can best support the women on their staffs, to allow them to be really exceptional, leading the teams that they coach, but then also being really exceptional moms at home.
And that's important, even at like a youth level, just being able to talk to your boards or leadership within your organizations about your needs, because they're not going to look the same. And this is even gender specific, but every human being has different needs in different family situations. And so I think it's important that we tell people it's okay to advocate for yourself. And also as leaders, if someone's advocating for themselves, how do we how do we make that work? I mean, some things are always going to be a hard no, but there's a lot of times we can be flexible. I mean, we can take that same grace and give it to somebody else.
Right. Being open to things
Right.
being different
Yep.
can be a challenge because so many people default to, well, this is how we've always done it. But that doesn't mean that it has
And
to
that's why we're here today.
Yes, and that's why we're here today. We're trying to change that. This is how we've always done it.
Yep.
And I mean, I had 2 years ago, I had a newborn in July, a baby in July, and I had been coaching my daughter's team for 3 years until then, and there was so much concern about whether or not I was going to coach again, and obviously it would have been a very easy out with like, no, I have a newborn. She'll be 2 months old when the hockey season starts, so I'm not going to coach. But knowing just how important it is to have female coaches in hockey, female coaches for, my daughter and her teammates to look up to, there was no way I was not going to coach. However, I needed so much support because, again, like Lizzy, both my husband and I coached hockey, and typically it did kind of fall on me to, if there was a conflict, then I would have to find someone to watch the baby. And luckily she was cute and she was an easy newborn, and so but the hockey moms on the sidelines,
Yep.
in the stands, it would be handing the baby off to them, and so that I could be out on the ice. And thankfully they were incredibly supportive of that. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to continue to coach. And I mean, there was still some mom guilt of, should I be handing my newborn off? But luckily our community is so
She turned
close.
out fine.
Yeah. She's a pretty good baby. She's very social now. Good or bad, she'll walk up to anyone and say hi. I think because she, had so much interaction with folks. And even this last year when she was 1, every once in a while we wouldn't have someone to watch her. And luckily I could lean on, those moms mostly, sometimes the dads though, who would be willing to watch her so that I'd be able to coach. So support is huge, and also asking for that help. Had I not asked, no one would have.
And it's hard to ask.
It is hard to ask, but I don't, people wouldn't have known that I needed someone to watch her so that I could be coaching. So yeah, being flexible, doing things differently, and then also asking for that help and support are so important.
And it is hard when you're, excuse me, the only female or one of the few females. When you ask for help, it seems, am I being weak? Does it look like weakness? Or is this me advocating for myself in a way that's going to help everybody? And that's, in your head, that's a really hard conversation to have. Even though if you're like, as I'm saying out loud, I'm like, well, of course it's just advocating for yourself. But in your head, it's different.
So true. So much goes on in our heads.
That's everything with being a mom, though.
Yeah.
That's not just asking for help. That's when the kid gets the report card, or when, teacher sends a note home or anything. You're always like questioning yourself, right? So it's just, I think so much of it comes down to self-awareness too, and having a great sense of self-awareness and knowing like what works for you and what you believe in yourself, and just going with it. And I agree. Like when I was coaching, I had a really resilient kid. She could like roll with anything. And like the babysitter would come, she'd be sitting with our team manager. Like I had the managers picking her up from school. Um, and my second child, who hasn't quite had that experience, is maybe a little less resilient than her. So I don't know if that's because he's a boy and she's a girl, or if that's just I was a coach and now not, or I just have two totally different kids. But I find it interesting to look at that.
I'll add too, because what you said is spot on as far as, some of the reluctance to ask for help because you don't want to feel like you're asking for too much or you're burdening others. But I used to say this relates similarly, no matter if you're a mom or if you're maybe just a young professional coming out of school and trying to land that first job, and you're going out and having to ask people in your network for help with letters of recommendation and being someone who's a reference on your resume. And if you're on the receiving end of that ask, think about that. Anytime you've been asked by someone, hey, can you put in a good word for me? Hey, will you be able to call this person and share with them what your experience has been working with me? And I've never had a negative experience asking for that help. I feel like it's an honor if you're on the receiving end of being asked for that help. You're feeling empowered to help someone. So I always try to remind women that it is hard to ask, but it's also, if you're on the receiving end of that ask, it makes you feel good. I think as humans, we innately want to help other people. But sometimes as women, we tend to have a little bit of reluctance or hesitation when we're having to ask others for that help. But I always try to remind women it's an honor to be asked. So don't hesitate in making those asks of what you need and telling others what you need to get the support that is going to help you in your career and also in your personal life.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and we've talked about that on here before. If you're interested at all in coaching, if you're interested in getting involved and learning a new sport, just ask, because there's always people that want to help, that want to share their knowledge, their time, their talent. And I mean, I know someone asked you for help the other day with becoming a coach, and you thought it was the greatest thing ever.
I know.
So
Yes, you're right. You do feel honored when people are asking you for help. So it's getting past that in your own head when you're asking someone else and shifting it from I'm being a burden to the most likely reality of, people are going to be excited and feel honored and empowered that
Absolutely.
they get to participate in, whatever it is that they are helping you with. But that can be a everyday struggle.
Yep.
And it just takes takes practice. Like the more you do it and the more you really watch and kind of analyze the person objectively and see like, oh no, they're excited. Like those hockey moms were, fighting for who got to hold the baby. So it's like as much as it felt like a burden, I could look and see like, no, they're enjoying it. So I can just take a deep breath and walk away for an hour and it's okay. I'm still being a good mom in this space. I do want to touch on, so I know the four of us are very excited to have more females in coaching and are incredibly supportive of women coaches and getting more and more women into coaching. However, I think sometimes people wonder why it matters so much that more women are coaching. So can you both touch on, why is it so important to have more women coaches?
Yeah.
For so many reasons. I mean, I think it's just important to see women in charge. You know, for our kids to see that, for our players to see that, to get a different experience as well. I think women bring an incredible level of empathy to the game, and that's something that is needed on teams today. And you see that now more than ever because I think coaching in 2025 is not like coaching in 1995 or 1985 or even in 2015 is like now. I mean, today is we definitely tailor our coaching now more towards the needs of the athletes and how can we there's more services available to these athletes than there ever has been. So I like that with the empathy piece. I do think that women bringing a really strong asset there because we listen, we understand, we can take that feedback, we can bring it back to the rest of the coaching staff or the program or whatever it is and maybe tailor like what is needed of this team right now. So that's something I really think is just a huge plug of why we need women in charge and why we need women leading the cause in coaching.
So good. And in addition to what Lizzy shared, I'd just say this, we know there's data out there that says young girls are dropping out of sport at twice the rate of young boys by the age of 14. And we really believe that with more women leading these youth teams, it's going to help change that statistic, that alarming statistic that young girls are dropping out of sport at twice the rate. Because if they have these female role models, mentors, leaders, they then not only does it impact their self-esteem, their confidence, but they're also starting to catch a vision for what they can do in their own lives. And that's why it's so important from these grassroots and youth levels of sport for these young girls. And we know the data tells us there's less than like 25% women coaching young girls on sports teams right now. So if we can bump up those numbers and get more moms to coach and get more women who might have played sport, no matter what sport, or women that just have an interest in sport to raise their hands to help coach these youth teams, we're going to see not only more women participating in sport and staying in sport for longer, but we're also going to see them catch a vision for their careers and their lives and what they might ultimately want to do once they grow up as well.
So something we have run into is, the big thing that we've learned is you just have to ask. But then we get, seems to be the same kind of hesitation from everybody. What do you tell people to compel them? I mean, you can't compel them, but what do you tell them to get them more interested in coaching? Like what can you say to someone to say, I know you have hesitations, but
I'll say this, we're really trying to work on the youth and grassroots levels and getting more women to coach at those levels. I think the sport clubs that are making those asks, and Lizzy and I've had this conversation, they have to be equipped with just the basic 101 training. I think any woman who's asked to coach a team, as long as they've got the human aspect, they know how to treat young people and help provide a positive experience, we can teach you the coaching, the X's and O's. We can teach you the basic fundamentals of this sport. But sometimes not every youth sport club team is set up to offer that type of training, just the basic fundamentals. And so that's something I think is really key, is to reassure anyone who's being asked that maybe they haven't coached the sport or played the sport previously, is to reassure them, hey, you've got the human side of this. We're going to just teach you the basic fundamentals of this sport so that these kids have a phenomenal experience playing. Lizzy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just say, I think sometimes you have to be convinced to get into coaching, but like it's it's really like coaching is my superpower. Like because I've coached, I feel like I can do anything. I've handled, so many different things as a coach, whether it's dealing with people, easy people, difficult people, you know, connecting with different personalities on my team, managing different behaviors. And I think because of that, I take that into my regular life and I just feel so confident literally to handle any adversity. Um, there is. So I do think coaching is one of the greatest professions in the world and people just need to understand that. And it doesn't matter what level it's at. There's a reward on it and it's hard and it's challenging. And I think there's good days and bad days in anything you do. But what coaching looks like is your good days are way better than your good days and maybe like normal life, and your bad days are way worse. So that's something like you kind of live this like up and down life where your curve is like this instead of just living in the middle. But it's worth it and it's awesome. And it's just a way to give back to what is needed out there.
So I know you guys have a tight timeline, so I think we're ready to ask our final question. And I'll let you guys decide who goes first. But what do you hope that your legacy in coaching is?
My legacy in coaching, I hope that people say that I made a difference in their life. I made an impact, that I cared, that I made them a better human being and cared about them more than what the sport offered, just their talent level and the X's and O's. That's really all I care about, is just that people understand that I'm here for them, for their growth as a human being, not so much whatever the sport rewards you in the end with in your accolades.
So good. There's the saying that, coach can impact more lives in a single year than most people do in a lifetime. And that's what came to mind as I listened to Lizzy share that. And, when I came to WeCOACH and I was evaluating leaving my alma mater, which I loved, Florida State, to come and lead WeCOACH, what was so appealing about the opportunity as we talk about our legacy is not only is this an opportunity to work with our team every day to continue impacting people, women coaches, and the lives of those coaches, but I'm learning some new skills. But best of all, and I think what was most compelling is, in a lot of ways, the work that we're doing through WeCOACH, we're helping to impact history and change some of these numbers that we've seen decline as far as women in coaching since the passage of Title IX. Believe it or not, the numbers have plummeted of women in coaching. And so this is really an opportunity to work daily toward changing history. So not only impacting lives, but changing history in many ways with the work that we're doing. So it's really an honor and privilege.
Yeah, I love it.
Yep, those are great.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're here too, to have a little impact on growing the number of females, specifically in hockey we talk about, because it's actually 7% of hockey coaches are female. So even smaller than that, 25% for all sports. And so it's great to be in company with other, fellow advocates who are really encouraging and taking action and providing tools and getting groups of women together. So it's so awesome to have you and to learn about everything that you are doing with WeCOACH. And we will be encouraging all of the female coaches that we know to check out your website, check out the forums, the groups, and to get that support that we all so desperately want to have and feel
And need.
and need and need.
Yep.
Yes. Well,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you so much for being here. And to end the episode, I wanted to remind all you women out there that we belong in hockey and we deserve to be a part of the greatest game in the world.
And remember to invite somebody else in.